Well, for more in-depth analysis of the financial crisis facing Puerto Rico, I'm joined by Javier Ortiz. He's a partner with Falcon Cyber Investments. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, Javier, give us a breakdown of what's happening with the latest legal challenges regarding Puerto Rico.
So today, probably for the next few weeks, a lot of lawsuits are going to be filed. Everyone that has Puerto Rico debt is likely to find their way to federal court, primarily because there's a new law that Congress passed last year called PROMESA, which provides a framework to try to deal with the debt either consensually through what is called Title VI negotiations or not consensually through Title III restructuring. So it's very complicated because this is a law that has never been tested before, and it relies on some principles in existing U.S. law, but many principles on what's called the Article 4 of the Constitution of the United States and territorial law. So it's a very complicated issue.
And we're certainly seeing a lot of creditors scrambling, getting in line to put their challenges in. So what's happened since last summer's default? What sort of momentum have we seen?
So there are a number of things have happened. The President of the United States, then President Obama, named the members of the board, of the Oversight Board, what's called the PROMESA Board, to try to put in place the framework that will either do restructuring or something else. Like not to talk about the something else for obvious reasons, but I think a lot has happened. But look, this has never been seen in U.S. law before.
Right.
I'm not a lawyer, but this is, when you do something for the first time, it's very complicated. You have a lot of people moving from the island, so. Or not many people moving to the island, so that also presents an interesting and difficult challenge. So it's not an easy issue. It's not a problem that is easy to solve because it has many moving parts and 118 years of history.
And so how much room for negotiation is there between the government and the creditors and this oversight board?
Well, we hope, I hope that there is a lot of room to negotiate. The other side of it is that I suspect that lawyers are very concerned about protecting their clients' rights. So if you hold bonds, you probably need to work your way, your lawyer is probably telling you to work your way to the courthouse very quickly because you want to protect your rights. And I think, in fact, some of the folks that have gone to court have publicly said, we're going to court, that doesn't mean that we're not interested in negotiating. I think the government is saying the same thing, and I think the board is saying the same thing. So one could surmise that everyone is interested in continuing conversations, but there's this legal framework that's never been tested before, so everybody's trying to protect their turf, if you will.
Now, I know you didn't want to really look at it, but what are the best and worst cases scenarios for Puerto Rico?
I think that the best case scenario is that everybody can get together and figure out a way to restructure the debt that is consensual. I think that the worst case scenario is that this goes to court in a way to restructure the debt without the consensual agreement from all the parties, and that will be extremely difficult. Again, uncharted waters, laws that have never been tested before, constitutional principles within the United States Constitution that have never been tested before, and probably the most recent time that anything of this magnitude was handled in the Supreme Court vis-a-vis Puerto Rico was 1902.
Right.
So this is a long, long ways back to try to figure out constitutional law.
And as we do remind viewers, Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory, not a state, so it doesn't have the same protections and access to funding. Now, there is this referendum vote coming up in June about statehood versus perhaps independence. What could the consequences be of these options?
Well, it's interesting because the U.S. Justice Department has said that a third option also has to be considered, and it's the current status, which, as you well said, is not a state, it's a territory, not all the laws apply, not all the constitutional principles apply. And it's important to note that it's actually true for any American who happens to be in Puerto Rico. So it's really an issue of the construction of the current Commonwealth, if you will. So I think that given the most recent letter from the Justice Department saying that this third option has to be in place, then it's really difficult to forecast what might happen on June 11th. And some people have said that perhaps the vote may not even occur on June 11th because there's got to be still some input from the Justice Department.
Well, certainly a lot at stake. Thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you.
Javier Ortiz of Falcon Cyber Investments.